Welcome back once again, where the doctor is usually in control of what happens. Mostly because it'd be pretty fucking weird if the patient were in control of what happens. Welcome to the Red Sun Lives. His channel is currently under my control because we had to take his computer away and his room. Quarantine's a bitch. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to be using his channel for the next few updates. I know I've already used it twice in before, but he's kind of being a prick at the moment, and he says he can't think of content. Lazy fucking bastard. In his own words, swearing is a little over the top for me. It's a little unnecessary, even though it's so fun. God damn it, I love it. Alright, and for today, I know the last two that I've done have been series that have been called hentai by all the meanings of the words, and I would like to continue on with that. But, like a tree, growing often requires you to branch out. Grab different things and show different avenues. Now, I'm not going to be going into 100% every category of every smexy thing to exist, but I am going to be branching out into some of the things that I would consider well worth your time if you were to consider looking a little bit further into it. If you are legitimately here for something more than what this is, or just whatever you feel like. It's up to you. It's not really up to me. Now, On for today's episode, I am here to tell you about a comic series, a webcomic series found on a website called luscious.net. And personally, it's a great place to go if you need an expansive library. It's almost like what HH.com, and if you're here because of the word hentai, then you know exactly what website that is. Probably because I've said it in a previous one, but I don't want to say it again because I'm bored. Now, well, I should say story, is called Alfie. 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 Single word. And it is a series taking place in a fictional world. And it's a currently ongoing series that does not show any time of slowing down. The production of each new page is quite slow, but it's understandable if you see the actual artwork. It is fantastic, and there is a lot to it. Now, the reason I'm taking so much time is because I wrote it down because I knew I'd forget that the series is start with the easy one. It is written by the writer and illustrator goes by the name of Incase, whether that be the entire website that it originates from, or the author's name that he, she, or they decides to go by. Incase spelled Incase. Very simple, single word. Now, the reason I'm using this as a reference for the first comic to be used is that it is very vast, incredibly long, at least by the standards that I've found. Like, I know there are webcomics out there that are extremely long and are overly huge, but when it comes to things like this is exceedingly long even for itself. The series itself is currently at 922 pages and continues to evolve in both plot, character development, character introduction, character relationships, and overall design and art style over the course of the 922 pages that it currently is at, and it is ongoing. So I don't feel like it's going to stop anytime soon, because there's a lot that can be done with this series. And another thing about it being almost 1,000 pages is that it has 48 categories. 48. To put that in perspective, most things on this website are between 9 and 25 pages, and usually have, let's say, 3 to 7 categories. Anything above 7 categories, that's a multi-series spanning series. I can't think of a different word for it. But this is a single novel, all self-contained in its own little comic series, done by Incase, who has phenomenal artwork and very well written stories and characters. Now, the entire thing, the plot of it. Actually, before I get into the plot, I just want to re-emphasize: there's 48 categories. 48. That means, oh, I'm not into this. Well, there's 47 more. Oh, I'm not into that. Oh, well, if you don't like, let's say 30 of these, there's 18 more that are well dispersed and put out throughout the entire series. There's something for everybody. And I mean everybody. That being said, now let's move on to the proper synopsis of the whole thing. Now, the synopsis is that it takes place mainly focusing on the title character, Alfie, who is a halfling who lives in a village. Constantly lives with her mother, who's kind of an overbearing person and is rather rude and decides to keep her away from people. She decides that she wants to leave her town and try to express what she has, because she notices things in her town are very oppressive. The thoughts of everybody who lives around her, she wants to not affect her. She wants to be free and move on. Experiment with herself and move on. Now, I know that sounds like, oh, Debbie goes to Dallas. Debbie does Dallas, and then just fucks her way across the town. But hold on. There's a reason I've read 922 pages and not just read the first 8 and moved on. Now, after going on this whole... Before she decides to leave, she finds a guard who works at a local caravan company, and then goes along with them as they travel across, staying with him, and then until eventually they pick up another person who works there, and they start having this inter-character relationship that goes in between all three of them. The female guard and the male guard, they end up having a weird relationship. Weird as in the male guard and Alfie also have a relationship, but the female guard has a distinct taste in only women. She says she's 100% gay and sticks with it, but she also has an attraction towards the male guard and tries to write it off by saying that he's feminine, he's a loser, he's a pitiful excuse of a male, but also acknowledges that he's very... You would seem like it's shitty writing for the lesbian to go after a man, like, just on a dime. But it doesn't work that way. It's not a quick switch over to it. It's a very long, built-up process that eventually leads into her saying that it's a spectrum of who I want to be and who I actually am attracted to, rather than just saying it's one or the other. And it's a really good way to look at it because it's a further explanation of life is made by decisions and experiences rather than cold what I want and this is who I'll be. Experiences make who you are, and that's a big theme throughout the whole thing. And it's a common theme throughout the entirety is I am who I say I am, and then somebody telling you, you have to be this. Fuck that. I feel like I need to do this to make me who I am and move on. And that's a common theme throughout it. Fuck what people think I should do. I want to be happy. That's it. That's a common theme throughout a lot of it. And I know that's probably like, oh, well, that's just an excuse for character A to have same sex relationships. It's opposite, whatever the fuck. But it's 922 pages is a lot to have character development. And the series overall, there's a secondary plot that happens in it where once Alfie herself has left and started her own quest that spans about 70% of the series, the other 30% is focused more along the lines of the adventures of the mother, who is trying to deal with being a better person outwardly, but she's been jaded by what's happened to her throughout her entire life, and she wants to find her daughter and at least either travel with her or bring her back. She's not sure yet because she starts to experience the world itself instead of being locked in a single town where everybody hears everything and lies can be spread easily. And reputations can make or break who you are. Because the beginning plot of the story is halflings aren't exactly looked upon highly because they're considered promiscuous, even though Alfie herself is not in the slightest. Is not, at least, for a while. There are other halflings around who people constantly hit on and know that it's easy pickings for them. And the mother herself is incredibly sullen, kind of celibate to whatever she does because she stays away from people. Because when she was younger, she ended up being a lot more open to everything and willing to try new experiences. And she was labeled I don't want to say the word. It's 4 letters, and it usually refers to a slur against sex workers. It's not that I don't have anything against saying it. It just feels mean. Like, I'm not like, I'm offended on your behalf. No, it feels like a mean word. It feels like if I say it, it's kind of a dick move. There's swearing, and then there's dick moves. Just think of bad 4-letter words you could use for sex workers. That's about it. And she was labeled that for a lot of her life until she developed a hatred of the people around her, and until eventually her husband, who ended up having an affair with another man, she ended up growing a distaste for anything outside of what she was originally of what she had tried that was new, because that was considered something new. She stayed away from it. Her husband was taken away from her, and he never came back to the family. She stayed inside and just grew resentful of everything until eventually her daughter leaves, and she wants to try to be better because she can't get any help if she's not a nice person. It's like, oh, is that a way for her to sleep with a lot of people on the way to her next one? No, that fucking doesn't matter. She's trying her best to be a different person as she continues on to find her daughter. Because imagine if she found her daughter again and then she was still just as resentful and hateful of a person who's been jaded by everything that goes on. And it's a story about new experiences in a life that continues going on. Now, The animation itself, actually, I have a list right here of like all the things that I'm supposed to talk about, and it's normally meant for videos, but since it's a comic, I'm gonna go. The animation is now the illustrations. The illustrations are amazing. There's really good use of shadowed and blended colors that mix together that show various markings on different people. Worlds are brightly colored and distinct. Places that are considered darker and dingier have this almost fog feeling to them where, if you walked off, you would you would slowly evaporate and you wouldn't see less and less of the person until eventually they walked away. Characters have instantly recognizable designs. They're very well constructed, just as each person, you wouldn't confuse anybody for anybody else. It's like, oh, that's the elf from a little bit ago. That's the halfling from a little bit ago. That's the main character's boyfriend, main character's experimental relationship. All these different characters. And they're all so vividly rememberable. And the settings are great. They feel like the characters have scaled to the actual size. They're not like copy paste picture on top of house or other thing. It's very vibrant of what's happening. It's very vibrant in colors, and it shows the contrast between a single person in a world full of this color, while that also reflects down on them to show that they exist in the space that they're being portrayed in. So overall, great illustration. If this person didn't have any experience in like the legitimate comic book industry, they need to. It doesn't even have to be like a major comic. It could be like a lesser one that focuses on more serious interpretations. Now, the characters, I feel like I went over a lot in the synopsis, where there is an overarching development of each of them as it goes along. So, since I've already talked about them in the synopsis portion of it, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the content. Now, the content of the reason you're there, the reason you're probably there, is almost like art. It's not portrayed. The things that are meant to be, you can almost, there's a fine line between, and this may be a little bit of a statement into itself, but there's fucking, there's sex, and there's making love. Those are at least the three that I can think of. Making love is an act between two people where you can see that they're both enjoying themselves, but it's more of like, it's an emotional enjoyment. No one is trying to do anything to like quicken the experience. It's drawn out. It feels like what's happening is necessary. Everything that's happening is slow, methodical. Movements are exaggerated and they grow in necessary proportion to what is there. Sex is very, it's very like blatant. It's happening and it's more fan service for the reader than it is anything else. It could easily be cut out and the story wouldn't continue on in any way, but it's still very nice that it's there, because probably why you're there in the first place. Now, fucking is the exact opposite of making love. It's an action that makes you feel that it's displayed incredibly well on the characters, where they're both super into it. And instead of like emotion driving it, it's feeling. Instead of emotion, it's feeling. Just hard. A lot of things are unnecessary. They're incredibly into it. They're tunnel vision down into what they're doing. And overall, it's strong use. That's all I'm going to say. Strong use of a physical body, of a human or fantasy being's body. Now, overall, the characters themselves, they rely on the first and third of those. There's making love and then there's fucking. Sex is also in there, but the actual content of it is it's very open. The way that like it's portrayed is it's almost like the way fight scenes are made in popular TV shows and movies, where it's methodically choreographed to show that things are meant to be where they're meant to be. It's not like it was thrown in there to make the reader. It was something a writer sat down and thought about. You know how English teachers will always say something along the lines of, oh, well, the curtains were red on there. What could that possibly mean? Something stupid like that. It doesn't fucking mean anything. But it's almost like when you're when you're reading through the series, just like, instead of like, no hand down the pants, you're like actually invested in like what's going on and how the characters are there. It's more along the lines of, like, why did the character pull back and it took 3 shots to show that they were pulling back? That was necessary to what was going on. It's almost like it was choreographed to show that each character is trying. You can tell a level of experience in one person, and you can tell the enjoyment of that person. Like, you don't just look at their face and see their tongue out and they're like drooling and their eyes are rolling back. You're actually seeing like a human expression, like emotion being captured in the face. Not just pure pleasure, but you're actually seeing what happens to a person. If they're not having a great time, then you can see it almost looks like the smile is fake. Not overly cartoony, but you can see it just in the lines in their eyes. And the characters that are actually having a good time, it's portrayed in the way that your eyes can fill in the motions as you read through the panels. It's almost methodical. Like, the best way that I can describe it is the sex scenes in this are comparable to the fight scenes in Cowboy Bebop. It's just it flows in movement. Like it's almost like it's happening to you as you like look deeply into the movement. You focus in on what's happening and you can see it as it goes. Now, overall, for the series itself, since I've talked a lot about everything that's gone on, and this is a little longer than what the videos have been trying to be, at least that's what I hope the Red Sun has been trying to do. The overall review of it, I've got to say, is the first 10 out of 10 that I'm going on. The characters are extremely well made. And the way that they're portrayed is great. The world that they live in is expansive, and it's little details that get thrown in where people are necessary for what's going on. It has an extensive, insane amount of quality and quantity of what's there for something like this. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, if you think 900 pages is right, you should look into other webcomics. There's ones that are like 6,000 pages. Yeah, I'm reading fucking Homestuck at the moment. Mostly because Red Sun has a dick of a friend who made him read it, and now he's super fucking happy about it, and now I have to read it. I got shit to do. I got culture to take in. You think this little notepad fills out everything by itself? I do that. But overall, The series itself is a 10 out of 10. I would highly suggest reading it. Somebody put their heart and soul into everything that's going on. They care about the characters. The overall drawing and illustrations of it are fluid. They work well. And I know saying fluid in this type of like genre is a weird statement. Now, I know my last two reviews have been a lot more joking and like, well, this is culture at the finest degree. This is legitimate art. If this person doesn't get picked up by another artist, by another company that owns things like this to work on their comics, I would seriously be shocked. It's a 10 out of 10. The series is called Alfie, Alfie. I'm probably going to put it in the title of this video. And it's done by an artist that goes by the name of Incase. I found this and I've been predominantly reading it on luscious.net. It is an amazing series. I would highly suggest reading it. And if this video does as well as the last two, or at least minorly well, or I feel like I want to do it again, I will do another comic series, and don't worry, I do have a few in mind. So, that being said, this has been Dr. Doujinshi trying his hardest not sprain his voice. So, have a nice day. As Mr. Sun would say, wash your fucking hands, or guess what I'm gonna be eating tonight? Yeah, it's that type of threat. Now have a nice day, wash your hands, and, as he would say, the red sun setting. Bye, guys.